Hey, sixth graders, this is lesson 3, day 5. So we are wrapping up the lesson on equivalent ratios. So this lesson is all about the independent practice, and it's kind of like a quiz review, because right after you take this, do this lesson, you're going to take your quiz. So this is extra practice for your quiz. Now, here is your job. There are 6 questions on page 24 and 25. So if you do not have your book on page 24 and 25, pause the video and go get it. You are going to do all 6 of these questions on your own. So here's 1 through 3, and you're going to go down through number 6. Now, the thing is, you're going to pause the video, do all of these. There might be some you're not sure of, and you give it your best shot. Because, if you get it wrong, you'll go over it with the video, and no big deal. I just want you to try your hardest. You may use a calculator. If it says show your work, make sure you show your work. If they ask you to explain anything, you have to explain something. So, 6 questions on your own, and when you're done with them, restart the video and watch and make corrections. Okay, pause the video, do 1 through 6 now. Alright, so let's see how you did. You should have 1 through 6 done, and I'm going to start by going over number 1. So it says, which table shows equivalent ratios? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start, you can start at any ratio if you want, but I'm going to start at the easiest one I see, which is 1 raisin has 5 calories. And notice that all of the tables have that same ratio, 1 to 5. Now the reason I'm starting there is because it's easy for me to figure out that 1 times 5 is 5, right? And that must be true for all of the ratios to be equivalent. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to check the next one. So let's check the second one. Is 2 times 5 6? No. 2 times 5 is 10, so it can't be A. Is 2 times 5 7? No, it's 10. Is 2 times 5 10? Yes, it is, so it can be C. Let's check D. Is 2 times 5 12? No. So we just eliminated 3 of the answers already. Now, if you wanted to check further, you can go and notice that 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 5 is 20, 5 times 5 is 25, and 6 times 5 is 30. If you had C circled for 1, give yourself a C. Okay, number 2. The table shows the calories in different numbers of small tangerines. Which expression does not, I hate these, the does not ones, show a way to find the number of calories in 10 tangerines? Okay, the reason I hate these is because 3 of the answers do find the calories in 10 tangerines. 1 of them does not. Now, you know what I'm going to do to solve this one? Is I'm actually going to find the calories in 10 tangerines. So I'm going to add on another table here. Now, I notice the tangerines are counting by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8. So the next one would be 10. And to figure out how many calories, well, there's different things I could do. I can see what the calories are going up by each time. Did you notice they're going up by 80 plus 80 plus 80, and 320 plus 80 is 400. But there's another way to figure it out. I also noticed that 2 times 40 is 80, 4 times 40 is 160, 6 times 40 is 240, 8 times 40 is 320, and 10 times 40 is 400. So either way you do that, you have to know that there's 10 tangerines have 400 calories. So let's go through and see which ones would work. So in the first one, it says, would 10 times 20 find the calories? Well, no, 10 times 20 is 200, right? So right now, I'm thinking this is the answer because I'm thinking this is a big no. It will not find the calories in 10 tangerines. But I'm going to figure out B, C, and D. Well, how about 10 times 40, which is 400? Well, yes, we know that would find the calories. And that's what we did here. 10 times 40 is 400, right? All right, so let's take a look at C. 80 plus 320. Well, guess what? That's 400. And that would be a big yes as well. And the last one, 160 plus 240 is also 400. So that would be a yes. And if you think about that, if you were to add, let's take a look at these 2 ratios. Notice that 4 tangerines plus 6 tangerines is 10 tangerines, right? Well, 160 plus 240 is 400 calories. That makes sense to me. So the correct answer for this one is A. That's the one that will not find the calories. All right, remember, you can pause this video at any time to make corrections. The point is you got to learn from your mistakes. All right, 3. It says, Mrs. Baca, nice name, uses a phone card to call her relatives in Colombia. It cost her 45 cents to talk for 15 minutes. Choose true or false for each statement. Okay. So let me first do a little bit of work for this. Before I even read the choices, it says it cost her 45 cents to talk for 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make a little ratio table. Okay, so this is going to be cost, and this is going to be minutes. So I know it's 45 cents for 15 minutes, right? So 45 cents, 15 minutes. Now, you know what I'm going to do real quick? Since it's cents, that shouldn't be a dollar sign. I'm going to make that a cent sign. All right. Now, let me go through and check out these questions and see if they're true and false. So A says, for 75 cents, Mrs. Baca can talk for 3 minutes. Now, I have no idea yet, but here's what I am going to do. I notice that 15 times 3 is 45 cents, right? So whatever the minutes are, you multiply by 3 to get the cents. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out some other ratios. For example, what if you have 1 minute? Well, multiply by 3, that should cost 3 cents. What if you have 75 cents? And we were talking about 3 minutes. Well, is 3 times 3 75? No. So guess what? A is false. B, the call rate is 3 cents per minute. Well, let's take a look here. Hey, I already figured that out. It's 3 cents per 1 minute. So guess what? That one is true. C, the call rate can be represented by the ratio 45 to 15. Now, this one could be tricky because this one I could see you arguing both. So the rate is 3 cents per minute, and the ratio 45 cents for 15 minutes is equivalent. So what that means, because these two rates and ratios are equivalent, that would be true, because this is 45 to 15. And D, divide 75 by 15 to find the number of minutes Mrs. Baca can talk. So let's see there. 75 by 15. Well, if you divide 45 by 15, you get 3, which is not the number of minutes Mrs. Baca can talk. So let's talk about this one for a second. So what if you divide 75 by 15? So if we do 75 divided by 15, that says Mrs. Baca can talk for 5 minutes, right? But this is not going to be true because, remember, the ratio is 45 to 15. If you divide 45 by 15, then maybe. But 75 divided by 15 will not get the number of minutes Mrs. Baca can talk. All right? So that one's a false. All right, so let's go on to the next page, number 4. So this says, Christina wants to buy some miniature goldfish. She reads that a 9-gallon aquarium is the right size for 3 miniature goldfish. The graph represents this relationship. So it says, which points show equivalent ratios that would also be on the graph? Select all that apply. So that means there can be more than one answer. So first, I want you to notice that the original ratio, that the 3 goldfish works for a 9-gallon aquarium, right? So if you look at the graph, there's 3 goldfish is 9 gallons. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a ratio table. So let's see here. My ratio tables are beautiful, aren't they? So 3 goldfish. I have 9 gallons. Let me put gallons up here and goldfish down here. So 3 goldfish, 9 gallons. All right, so now notice the rule is times 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. So what if I had 1 goldfish? 1 times 3 is 3. So that means this could be a point. So I'm actually going to put it on my graph, 1, 3. All right, so what if I had 4 goldfish? What's 4 times 3? Well, 4 times 3 would be 12. So it's not going to be C, right? All right, oh, how about B? It says 6 goldfish. Well, B and A both have a 6 to start with, so it can't be both of them. So if I have 6 goldfish, what's 6 times 3? It would be 18 gallons. So for 6 goldfish, you need an 18-gallon aquarium. So 618 would be right here. And notice the ones that are equivalent form a straight line. That's one of the keys. Now, if I were to try to graph the 2 that aren't choices in B and C, if I were to put 410, for example, 410 would be right here in a red dot, and 612 would be right here. Notice both of those red dots are not in that straight line. So that's another way you can tell if they're equivalent. They have to be in that straight line. So if you had A and D for this one, give yourself a C. All right, number 5 says, Gloria rides a bike 8 miles in 40 minutes. Nanette rides a bike 5 miles in 30 minutes. If they continue to ride at those speeds, who will ride farthest in 1 hour? How much farther? So you had to answer 2 questions. Did you answer who will ride farthest in an hour? And did you say how much farther? So remember the trick when you are comparing 2 people. You want 2 separate ratio tables. So let's start with Gloria. So she rides 8 miles, so the top will be miles, in 40 minutes. So let me split this into some columns. So 8 miles and 40 minutes. Now, if I want to know who can ride the farthest in 1 hour, we know 1 hour is going to be 60 minutes, right? So now let's figure out the rule. Remember, the rule here is 8 times 5 is 40. So the question is, what times 5 is 60? Now, if you know your multiplication tables, you can figure out what times 5 is 60. I would just do 60 divided by 5. Remember, if you do the opposite. And 60 divided by 5 is 12. So in 1 hour, Gloria can ride 12 miles in 60 minutes, or 1 hour. Now, let's compare that to Nanette. So I'm going to do the same thing. So let me get the table started. And this is Nanette. And we're going to do miles. We're going to do minutes. Now it says Nanette rides a bike for 5 miles in 30 minutes. So 5 miles in 30 minutes. Now the rule for this is 5 times 6 gets you 30, right? So we want to figure out how far Nanette can ride in an hour. Again, that's going to be 60 minutes. So, in other words, what times 6 is 60? Or 60 divided by 6 is 10. So Nanette can ride 10 miles in 1 hour. So remember, there were 2 questions. Who will bike the farthest? Well, Gloria will, because 12 miles is further than 10. How much farther? Well, 12 is 2 miles farther than 10, right? So I'm just going to answer Gloria will bike 2 miles farther than Annette. Or not Annette, Nanette. That's a fun name to say, Nanette. All right, if you had that one right and you answered both parts, give yourself a C. All right, last one you had to do was number 6. One recipe for cereal bars uses 5 cups of cereal and 2.5 cups of nuts. A different recipe uses 3 cups of cereal and 1 cup of nuts. Which recipe is more nutty? All right, so let's set this up again. This is kind of like number 5. We're going to have 2 ratio tables. So I'm going to have recipe 1, and I'm going to have recipe 2. And each one is going to get a ratio table. All right. Now, both of them are going to talk about cups of cereal. So I'm going to say cups. Oop, they're both cups. Let me fix that. So this will be cups of cereal. And the second part is going to be nuts. So over here, I'm going to have cereal and nuts. All right. So now, first one recipe for cereal bars uses 5 cups of cereal and 2.5 cups of nuts. So 5 cups of cereal and 2.5 cups of nuts. A different recipe uses 3 cups of cereal for 1 cup of nuts. All right, so 3 cups of cereal, 1 cups of nuts. Now, the reason I put that in the first column is because of the 1. It's already a rate, so I figured I'd put it in the first one. Now, what I'm going to do over here with the first recipe is I want to figure out what the rate is. So I want to figure out what that 1 is. So first thing I'm going to do is figure out the rule. Notice, to go from 2.5 to 5, you have to double it. 2.5 times 2 is 5. So then, what's 1 times 2? It's 2. So now, what we're going to do, I'll switch to green here, is we have to compare the 2 rates. When you have a 1, that's where you can compare them. Now, here's where you got to think. It asks for which recipe is nuttier. So both of these are down to 1 cup of nuts. But notice in recipe 2, you have more cereal. So to be nuttier, you need less cereal, right? So recipe 1 is going to be nuttier. So I'm going to say that. Recipe 1 is nuttier because you have more cereal with each cup of nuts. Doesn't that make sense? If you have too much cereal and not enough nuts, you're going to be like, oh man, there's not enough nuts in here. But if you have less cereal with the same amount of nuts, it's going to be nuttier. So that's why recipe 1 is nuttier. All right. Anyway, guess what? You're done with me. So remember, go through, pause, review, go back, go over a question again if you need to. You're going to have a quiz that's somewhat similar to these 6 questions. So thanks for watching.